I made the mistake of going up to Seattle, and then I happened to open up the apps like, oh, let's see what's happening in Seattle, you know. By the end of that trip, I had 6,800 likes. This is either a complete scam or I don't know what's happening. And that's when, like, you know, your mind just goes, and then like you're like, I can't even open up the apps again. So yes, there's an absolute real bona fide discrepancy here. And I'm so sorry for any role I play in it. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of I Hate Dating Apps. I'm Jinah.
And I'm Daniel.
So today, this is very exciting, not only because I have two wonderful friends joining us as guests, but also because we're going to talk about a subject that I've always kind of been told by people exists. It's an issue that I, as a woman, don't really notice too much, but all of my guy friends complain about it, which is that something like 90% of men get no love on the apps, and 10% of guys get all the love. They're getting all the women. All the women are like, yes, you Brad Pitt. Yes, you Timothée Chalamet lookalike. And they think that they have a chance with them because they're popping up on their feed. And then they look at like a normal, attractive looking guy, and then they'll go, but I have Timothée Chalamet popping up on my feed. I'm going to swipe left on this guy, leaving 90% of men to like kind of almost fight for scraps. I hate to sound so negative and doomsday about it, but apparently it's a thing. And you actually have some statistics.
It's a thing. It's a thing. Do you want to play the clips? Like, I mean, this is something that is among men of a certain age, especially. It's something that is talked about a lot on social media. There are professors in NYU that are talking about this.
That's true.
Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, if you want to play the clips and then, and then we can dive right into it.
Yeah. Let's play the first clip.
Mating has been consolidated in the worst way. 50 men on Tinder, 50 women. 46 of the women show all of their attention to just 4 men, leaving 46 men pursuing just 4 women. We have huge mating inequality. And here's the problem. When people don't get together and there's no pheromones and there's no vibe, women, and we don't like to say this on the left, primarily try and make very quick assumptions about this individual's ability to garner resources in the future. So what you have is this concentration of interest, and you're ending up with Porsche polygamy, where 10% of the men get 90% of the attention, which does not lead to good behavior or form long-term relationships. E-commerce was disastrous for retail. Social media was disastrous for everybody. Online dating is disastrous for mating and for men.
Okay. So
we got another clip for you guys.
Yeah, we got another one, another reputable source, right? This is also a professor.
Yeah, so the first one was Scott Galloway. He's a professor at NYU. And he's a public speaker, and he does the rounds around all the talk shows, speaking a lot of issues, current issues, but that's one of them. It's about the changing nature of gender roles, and
So in short, credible source.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just that he's a credible source; is that this is a very talked about subject. Yeah, especially among men and around dating apps and the changing, dating dynamics of our modern society.
Yeah, and here's
this is
another one.
Actually, just coincidentally, this is a Wall Street Journal piece, and it's another NYU professor talking about a very similar thing.
The dating apps create a terrible dynamic for men, where a small number of men get all of the invitations, and that means they can become jerks. They can be rude, they can date multiple women, and then the women feel men are jerks. But you've got most of the men are getting no bites, they're getting no dates, and they feel women are jerks. All they want is, X, Y, and Z. So I think the dating apps are one of the reasons driving the sexes apart. Again, this is just for heterosexual dating. Just driving the sexes apart, making it more difficult to date, to court, to fall in love, to marry, to have children. So I think we're going to look back on this and say the dating apps had all these unintended consequences that are really messing up the romantic lives of Gen Z.
So the discrepancy between the experience of an average man and an average woman on dating apps is real. It's anecdotally real. Everybody who's been on dating apps have experienced this. I hear so many from my female friends who are dating apps. Oh my God, including you, I'm overwhelmed. I get thousands and thousands of likes, and most of my guy friends are like, they hear chirps.
Yeah.
Like, I'm on the dating apps, and so Hinge has this statistic, and it says that for men, on average, you get one match out of 40 likes. So that means you have to like tell 40 women you like them, and maybe one of them will say that, they'll match with you. Not even date, match. And then there are a few more steps after that.
Yeah.
One out of two for every. So women, like 50% like a chance of hitting it, right? They like two guys, one of them will say, I want to match with you.
Really?
That is a 20 time differential. And women will like 1 out of 16 profiles and on average, and men will like 1 out of 3 profiles. Now, a lot of people can conclude from this that the problem is that women are picky. Women are way too picky, and they have a inflated sense of their value in the marketplace, generally speaking. I'm not talking about individuals. I'm talking about very broad strokes here, right? So women in general have a very inflated sense of their value in the marketplace, in the dating marketplace. So they go for like, oh, I'm going for the top of the top. And there are a lot of social media videos around this too. They go to like women on the streets, like, what kind of a man are you looking for? Oh, he's got to be at least 6'2" and earn $500,000. And there's this guy actually who does this on the street, and he starts calculating based on demographics. It's like, you realize that you're going for 1% of the male population, right? Right?
Yeah.
So if 99% of the women are going for 1% of the population, the numbers, like, Professor Galloway is talking about, 90%, and that's the number that gets used a lot, depending on the sources, anywhere from 85 to 95%. So 85 to 95% of men, generally speaking, are getting rejected by most women. Ugh. So where is this mismatch coming from? And I think there are some interesting conversations that we can have around that, because you have some ideas on how men can
I mean, like,
up their game.
I'm happy to talk about my behavior on the apps and what I do, but a lot of what you just said absolutely rings true.
Yeah.
But so that we can have a very robust discussion about this, I want to bring in, I'm so excited today. Seriously, this is like an amazing episode because I get to talk to my wonderful friends who also happen to be broadcast journalists, Alex Calder and Chris Pallone. Hello, gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us. I'd love for you guys to introduce yourselves. Of course, I know you guys very well, but let's start with Chris. Please introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Chris Pallone. I just turned 50 this week,
Yeah,
which has
happy
been
birthday!
It's a big one. I've been single for a little more than a year now, and joined some of the apps about a year ago. And what you've described is exactly what I've experienced. I live in the Boston area, and I work in TV news, and I don't have children, and I'm over 6 feet tall, and still it's crickets out here.
Wow. Okay, Alex.
So, Chris, I just turned 59, so I'll just consider myself part of the forward expedition. I'm kind of checking things out for you before you get here. I will be the cynic. I will channel my inner Jinah here and be the cynic and say, it doesn't get a whole lot better as time goes on here. I'm in St. Louis, a bit of a different vibe from where I used to be out in Los Angeles, and it's crazy times, but I wholeheartedly agree with just kind of everything Daniel was laying out there. It's pretty rough.
Well, so I want to just dive right into this. What has your experience been? How long have you guys been on the apps? Chris, you said about a year. Alex,
Yep.
I don't know what apps you're on and how many years you've been on them, but Chris, take us through those kind of like foundational points and then your thoughts.
Sure. So I joined about a year ago, probably end of July of last year, and did the traditional three that I think most people suggest: Hinge, Tinder, and Bumble. I'm also on the League. I got let into that after a while. There's a long waiting list, and I might have had my tires pumped by friends who were like, "Look, you're going to clean up. You don't have children. You have a career, the appearance of a career. You don't, no kids. You're over 6 feet tall, relatively okay looking. My hair waved bye-bye to me about 25 years ago, but I've come to embrace that. And so I, kind of dove into this with a bit of excitement of, meeting somebody new for the first time in, 20 years or whatever. And it has been so startling and disappointing at first I was paying for a few of the apps too, so you could get the more
Yep.
robust features of seeing who liked you first, so you can make a more informed match. And I had a couple of random conversations with women that one that kind of went somewhere, and maybe my circumstances kind of killed it because I do have this weird travel schedule where I can be around for a long time and then pick up and go to Washington, D.C. for a period of several months or something like that. So the fall was disappointing. But this year, I've been a little more intentional about it, trying to put something together as I've been more in Boston and in my home area. And nothing has really taken off to the point that I quit paying for them. And it's really funny. Once I quit paying for them, it felt like I don't know if all of a sudden a massive influx of more attractive women joined, but it felt like I started seeing more attractive women on the apps, which is kind of counterintuitive.
Well, I mean, I have a theory about that, which is they want you to pay again. So they were throttling some of the beautiful women. And they're like, oh, he's not paying anymore? Well, then let's throw him, Barbie. And then you're like, whoa. Yeah.
And then the funny thing, too, about Hinge that makes me laugh, too, because it seems like at least a lot of women that I talk to seem to prefer that one a little bit more. And the funny thing about Hinge is that, like, even if you're paying for it, every day you get this group of standouts. And those are the most attractive, like right in the demographics that you're looking for. Yep. And in order to connect with them, you have to buy a rose. So you have to spend more money to send them some sort of acknowledgement that you're interested in them. And, it just seems like such an incredible racket. And I'd be more discouraged if I was convinced that this is the only way to meet people. I really think that if I ever meet somebody, it'll have to be in person. And that's where I operate the best, I think. But so I'm not that bummed out about it, but it's just been, talking to you, Jinah, talking to other female friends, and they say, oh my God, I have 999 likes on Tinder. Like, it would take me 47 more years to get 900 likes, or maybe longer than that to get any sort of traction like that. And the type of attention that I get, first of all, I find the whole thing sick. I told you this in the past, Jinah, just judging someone on a couple of prompts and 4 or 5 pictures. I feel like if I met some of these people in person that I'm clicking no on, I'd probably actually be interested because you don't have that intangible and that chemistry. So anyways, I find the whole thing kind of gross, but, just in going through it, I'm getting people who are either in Thailand, I'm 8,000 miles away, but that type of stuff, or just people that I wouldn't consider to be, my level. And that's not an egotistical thing, just somebody that you feel like you match with and have similar interests with. There are people who are, way, way older than me, or, just not at the same, level that I'm operating at. And I'll get 1 or 2 of those a week, and that's kind of about it. And I shared with you that I actually did have a match fairly recently and actually went on a date, and it was the first date I've had since I've been single in 13, 14 months. And it's been, one date.
One date in 1 year, in a little over a year.
How many dates did you go on, Jinah, over the last year?
I went on like 80 my first year when I was
not to brag or anything.
Yeah, no, it's
feast or famine.
I paid for maybe 4 of those, So yeah, it's really skewed. And I'm seriously not trying to brag, but this is a statistic that I think is very valuable for this discussion, particularly. A little less than a year ago, before I stopped Tinder, because I just did not like Tinder. I pay for all of my apps, so I was paying for them. So I don't feel like I felt any kind of like throttle. And I think this is proof of that. I made the mistake of going up to Seattle to go on a trip like last November. And then I happened to open up the apps like, oh, let's see what's happening in Seattle. By the end of that trip, I had 6,800 likes. I know that's a crazy number. And that's when I was like, this is either a complete scam, or it's so skewed towards women because men are so starved out there, or I don't know what's happening. And that's when your mind just goes, and then you're like, I can't even open up the apps again because the next time I open it up, it'll be 7,000, So yes, there's an absolute real bona fide discrepancy here. And I'm so sorry for any role I play in it. But anyway, Alex, okay, sorry. Go. Alex, you and I, because you listen to our podcast religiously, and so does Chris, by the way, but you were like, after the, Are Women the Problem episode, I remember you calling me and going, girl, you just opened my eyes.
Right.
Like, here I am writing cover letters, Dear Barbie, you look beautiful. Love what you wrote. And not realizing that she never made it past Dear Barbie because she like swiped left on your ass so fast. And then you were like, ping, I've been wasting my fucking time. Right.
Not only that, he might have not even popped up, even though he said like if you're getting 6,800 likes, right?
Right.
Yeah,
so like she never even got to him.
She might not
maybe.
even gotten to him, exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm so sorry, Alex. Go ahead.
Well, first of all, let me just say it's helpful for a guy like me that only goes for girls named Barbie because I can just write the one form letter.
I was gonna say, Barbie.
I'm Ken.
Yeah.
No, I just had the thing that was like you say, the mind blowing thing for me was, Jinah, you said during that episode, you're like, I wish there was a way in the apps where I could just do like a shift click like you do on your computer and just swipe left on all of them, right? And
to clean my plate, yeah.
Right. And I'm like approaching this thing like, I'm writing a cover letter for the perfect job I saw on LinkedIn. I'm spending like all this time going, oh, you mentioned this thing and I've been there too. I've got a funny story to tell you. Let's grab coffee. I can't wait to hear it. Brr, brr, brr. And the thing that's the crazy part to me about it is that this whole dating app thing was promised as this solution to this problem of how do you kind of like get out there and meet people. It's hard. Sometimes we're too busy with work or whatever other stuff ties us up. And so there was all this like expectation. I mean, Chris said it's a racket. It's disappointing 100%. My thing with it was that I can't believe after all this time with the dating apps that it has circled back around to, wait a minute, my odds are better if I go meet a girl in a bar.
Yeah.
I may be the only guy that walked up to that girl at the bar. So, I mean, basically, it's pretty much a yes or no, but at least we know where we stand as opposed to.
At least you got to see you. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like we're wasting all this time. And it's just, I'm going through that same depression. Luckily, I'm employed. Ladies, I'm employed. But I'm going through that same disappointment as when you just send off this cover letter to an employer and you're just like, I'm going to crush this. And then you never hear back from them.
You know why? Because they're using AI to like scan through all of the cover letters and looking for keywords instead of actual substance. That's why.
Oh, I know.
And the same thing applies to dating apps.
Well, and I
algorithms.
think if I can kind of tag on one thing too, I think one of my frustrations is that I'm not a hookup guy. And I think for guys like me that are, I'm looking for a girl to take weekend drives and to binge watch shows that we never got to see and watch documentaries and, Netflix and chill in the old school way. And so for me, the fact that we're kind of clustered together with what I kind of generically would call the Tinder crowd, where the people are just out there looking for hot people to hook up with, it just feels like a real disservice. Because I know there's girls out there that want the same thing. I would eventually guess a lot more women want a relationship more than the hookup
100%.
Right.
Yeah.
But this is what happens, right? Actually, that's interesting you say that, Alex, because I saw a comment on Galloway's clip that we just saw. So somebody on Instagram commented, and it was a woman, and her point was, well, maybe you should take and this is a problem. We're talking generalities, right? So what he said, the Porsche polygamy, which I thought was a really funny, term. So the rich keep on getting richer is basically the bottom line here. So when it comes to dating apps as well, it's like the top 1% or the top 10% to get everything. But this is what dynamic it creates. So if 10% of the guys are getting all the women, they are going to behave badly, like the Wall Street Journal guy said, right? So then the women get this impression that all men are jerks because they all they want is hookup. Yeah. And then you got the dating apps, which are money-making, enterprises, and they're trying to entice you with, pictures of beautiful women. Actually, the Hinge statistic that I quoted earlier, it's from Hinge, and they say 1 out of 40 for men, and and then they say, But guys, don't get discouraged. So the numbers don't lie. So they have to spin it some way. And they're like, but guys, you don't really need 20 women to like you. You just need the one perfect. So keep on going.
Oh,
keep
yeah,
trying.
yeah.
Right?
Such a
Give me
marketing
more
ploy.
money.
Yeah.
Send us the roses because this. And for women, it's like, oh, look at all these choices that you have. So it's like, it's advertising. So for men, you're advertising the lottery. Imagine the possibilities, right? It's like, yeah, it's 1 in a billion, but it won't happen unless you buy the ticket. That's the dream that you sell. To women, it's like, oh my God, you're gonna have the whole world at your feet. Like you're gonna have the pick of the litter, right?
Yeah.
Because they're business enterprises. So, and in none of this, by the way, has anybody trying to find you the right partner. Nobody's trying to find you love, right?
Right.
Well,
Everybody's got like a vested interest.
So I like to compare a lot of things to food. Why? Because I love food. But it'd be like for women if we went to a buffet and there were like crab legs, prime rib, whatever, Ghirardelli cheesecake, but there was only like 10 of them, right? And the rest was like 2-day-old fried chicken, or whatever. I'm not saying you guys are anybody's unappetizing, but what I'm saying is there are the standouts, right? And then you spend a year at this buffet and you do start making up your mind that this buffet sucks, right? Because you're just like, oh, there's only 10 and they're out of reach. They keep them in the back, bring it out only for special occasions. So I'm not going to go to this buffet anymore. I'm done with this fucking bullshit buffet.
The prime rib will sleep with you and not call you the next day.
Yeah. You get to like lick the prime rib, but you never get to like take a bite out of it, So,
Well, and the other thing though is that when you look at the statistics that the two clips that you were talking about kind of showed there, okay, so great, men get one match out of 40 likes, but now factor in the fact that if you're someone like me who's heard your whole life, oh, girls just want a guy with a sense of humor. They just want someone that makes them laugh. Well, I'm going to try to write something that's going to make them laugh. That takes time. I'm not like, Robin Williams just cranking out content here. If I'm going to get one match out of 40 and I'm going to have to spend an hour or two writing the perfect, hilarious thing that hits all the points in their profile, because that's the other thing we hear about women is that they complain that men are like, what's up, and they don't really say anything. Jinah, you've talked about this before.
100%. Yeah.
How men are just crazy uninspired because if they're cute guys, they're just going to get the hookup anyway. And so it's just like, well, there's just not enough time. I have a whole other life. This is like, there's just no way to beat this. There's no way to beat this.
So Alex, you don't spend any time writing these women, unless you match. If you match, then yes, spend some time. But the profile is where I, make a decision. If the profile is witty and funny, I guarantee you the women will be like, and I'm fairly certain your profile is funny and witty because you are. So I think that's where you could win, is if your profile is super funny and like people are like, oh my God, this guy has major personality, and then they'll swipe right on you. And then you're like, woo, let me roll up my sleeves, bring out the machete, ladies.
Well, it depends on what the objective is. But here's the other thing that we miss on a little bit is, because we're talking statistics, and it's a bit of a popularity contest, right? So Hinge, although it's true. Like at the end of the day, who cares how many likes you get and how popular you're on the dating apps if you're looking for that one person that you match with and you're a good partner with. But but the gamification of this is that in order to get to that one person, you need to have a huge pool, and you cannot have a huge pool unless you get the matches. And nothing comes across on profiles except for the first picture. Look, Mick Jagger, not today's Mick Jagger, 1960s Mick Jagger, will not get any likes the way he looks. And nobody care how great of a singer he is or how great of an artist he is, how funny you are, how witty you are. It doesn't come across that first photo. So it becomes this popularity contest. A lot like in dating apps, just like in social media, it's that first impression. That first impression is that photo. And you and I talked about this. Women on dating apps, and Alex and Chris, you guys probably noticed this. Every woman puts a lot of effort into making that profile photo and the photos looks as quote unquote sexy, as appealing as possible. There's a lot of cleavage.
And
there's a lot of duck lips, and a lot of men don't, because we didn't grow up, being told that attractiveness, physical attractiveness is important. Like you have to be smart, you have to work hard, you have to make a lot of money in order to be desirable. And that's what Galloway said, is that when you don't meet people in person, it doesn't come across how capable you are, how witty you are, that you have a job. It's like all they see is a photo, right?
Yeah.
And the face
And-
tuning is out of control. I'm going to get a T-shirt that just
Yeah.
says "No face tuning" and just wear it on all my profile pictures.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of
Yeah.
people have stayed away from that because there's been such backlash on the filters. I don't know. I don't look at women. I don't know whether women are still like super loving the filters, but I think there's been enough backlash to where that doesn't happen so much. But what I can say is that because we have to make such snap judgments as women with a lot of likes, I don't know. I can't speak for all women, but based on my experience, because I have to make a lot of snap judgments in order to even like get through the profiles that I do get. The first picture does say a lot. So I want to know, what does your first picture look like? Because there are studies upon studies, that show that when two people, a woman and a man, are like under an fMRI machine, the parts of their brain that light up are extremely different, right? For a man, it's going to be a woman in a bikini 100% of the time. For women,
No.
what? Yeah, I know. Alex, hard to believe.
I never noticed
but-
any women in
That's
bikini.
shocking.
Right. But for women, it's almost always the guy in a three-piece suit. So what does that say? That says that evolution has taught women that the most attractive man in the room is the one that can provide. And even though we're miles away from that and women are, providing for themselves just fine, it is still like culturally and socially and anthropologically ingrained in us to look for the man who can provide. So what is your first photo? And do you think that might be a
This
pitfall?
episode brought to you by Men's Warehouse.
Most of these apps have a thing where they put your most popular photo,
That's
the one
true.
that gets looked at the most first.
Yeah.
And so on most of my services, my first one is a shot of me in front of a camera with the lights and the scene behind me, and I'm in a sport coat. And so I look professional. And that one always seems to surface first. The funny thing to me is on Hinge, when I do get comments, the one that gets the most comments, and it kind of blows my mind because when I first set up my profile, I just kind of threw it in there. It is me in an apron in the kitchen making Thanksgiving dinner. And I get so many people either just like it or comment on like, oh, what do you like to cook? Or, what was that all about? And every time I've gone and recycled my photos, I tend to leave that one in because that's the one that gets me, seems to get me the most attention, at least on Hinge, which I just find hilarious because I do cook a lot, and I am generally responsible for my entire family's Thanksgiving and Christmas meals.
That's
So,
super attractive
that-
to a woman, of course.
And
I
you're
guess.
wearing just the apron, or are you wearing anything else?
Yeah, it's just apron and the little Chippendales bow tie. I thought,
There
hey,
you
that
go.
was weird, but kind of a little
Dang,
different.
Chris.
Yeah.
That's why it's getting all the likes.
Yeah, holding out on.
So are you saying I need to take the profile picture down that shows me in front of Waffle House then? I'm just trying to hone this in a little bit.
Yeah.
I do have one, though, in most of mine, that I do have one where I went to a function recently for one of my old stations, and I am in a suit and tie, and that one does tend to get some clicks, too.
I'm telling you. What about you, Alex? What are your profile pictures like?
I tried swapping it out. Usually it's like a picture of me, just a big smile on my face, kind of having fun. I'm out on a bike. I'm outside doing something because I kind of figured that women would be like, well, I'd prefer a guy that's going out and doing things outside than someone who's stuck inside all day. I have swapped it out with the picture of me in the suit. Didn't really seem to kind of move the needle at all. So I've
Have you
been
had
trying to-
professional pictures taken of you?
No, I should actually. I mean, that's
Yeah.
actually a great
But
idea.
I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I mean, in my
I respond to professional
right.
photos.
But yes, you might. But generally speaking, I don't know if it will move the needle all that much because here's I think the psychology of it is partly the algorithms because the company the dating apps are trying to get people engaged and engaging more and more. I think built into the structure is that look, not you, Jinah, but most women, the average woman on the dating app if they've got an average looking guy on a 3-piece suit and they got, Brad Pitt on a, and she's like, on the app, they look exactly like I can have access to either of them. They're going to pick the Brad Pitt.
I don't know
right?
about that. I don't know about that.
No, but I mean, the statistics, look, I mean.
The statistics are that they would, biologically, evolutionarily,
Right.
we are programmed to pick the guy in the 3-piece suit.
That's true. But do you think that it's the reason why the numbers are so lopsided is because a lot of average guys don't know how to present themselves? So there's
100%,
part of that.
100%. 90%. You guys, 90% of the profiles that I encounter start with a fuzzy picture or a picture of a guy in the bathroom, and like, 3 additional photos of him are in the bathroom, with the mirror, selfie, right? With the phone right here.
And they have like 6 packs and like, or they.
No, they're in a bathroom, but they do have gym photos.
Right.
Among those.
Right.
So if I see a guy with a selfie in a bathroom, I'm almost positive that collection of photos will also include him in a gym.
Mm-hmm.
And and it might also include him on a boat with a fish.
Right.
So
With a
I'm like,
fish, right,
I
with a fish.
immediately swipe left on those guys because I'm like, that is so trite. Have they not learned anything?
But these guys who are not having much success don't have bathroom pictures. They're not gym, they don't have gym pictures, his
hold
apron
on.
and stuff.
Are we-
No.
Alex has bathroom pictures.
no,
No,
I'm
just
kidding.
kidding.
No, well, what I'm saying is, I mean, I know you dislike them.
I almost went to the supermarket and just held up a package of fish. I thought maybe that would work. Yeah.
That'd be fun.
But most average guys, most normal people don't do that. But this is what I'm. This
No,
is my
that's
point.
90% of profiles, is what I'm saying.
So in the real world, most people don't live in the gym. They're like, but what I'm saying is like, the proof is in the pudding. The fact that 90% of the male profiles that you see do that,
Which
I'm
I
telling
reject.
you, which you, Jinah, can reject. The reason why they're doing it, you're seeing it, is because it works in
No,
this hookup
because it's
culture.
lazy.
No, it works. Trust
These guys
me.
are not getting likes.
Trust. They are. I am telling you. I have friends who
Swipe right on male selfies in bathrooms?
male friends
Oh,
who
male friends.
do the selfies,
Oh.
who got great bodies. These guys don't have to write anything. They just have to go like, they can have laundry in the back. They take off their T-shirt and they take a picture of their 6-pack. And women are, trust me, you might not, but the fact that you're seeing so many of them, right? It begs the question. Even Jinah is like, I hate these pictures. Why are they showing so many to me? It's because you, Jinah, might not like it, but a ton of women like it. And then it's this hookup culture. People are looking for a quick, and then everybody who's actually looking for
Women-
matchups don't actually match up.
I don't know that most women are looking for hookups. There are certainly a lot of women
I'm not
that are
saying
looking for hookups.
I'm not saying most women are looking for hookups. I'm saying the whole system encourage hookups instead of, right? So the people who like hookups, dating apps are great.
Yeah.
Right? If you
I
have
wanna-
a 6-pack, it's great.
Alex wants a hookup.
Yeah.
I've got something I want
Alex wants a hookup.
Sure.
There you go.
Anybody? No, I'm being told no. So here's my thing. I think that let me throw in an opposing viewpoint here.
Yeah.
I think that more so than the photo, I think that what it really comes down to, and I have a couple things that kind of go this way. I think the bigger problem is the picture. There's an issue of trust, and the picture of the person is not representative of who they are in one way or another. So one example that kind of sort of makes me sad from the girl's perspective is that, there's this old adage that that men use love to get to sex and women use sex to get to love. Mm-hmm. And there's a feeling in my mind that the girls out there that are the girls that are looking for relationships and not hookups, those girls are they're trying to cast a wider net so they can get some interest. So they're sexing it up a little bit because they think, well, I'll get them in the door with a sexy look so that they're going to bite. And then once I get them there, they're going to fall in love with me because I'm awesome, which of course, may or may not happen.
Right.
The other thing too, in terms of, we talked about face tuning, and you guys have talked in previous episodes about one of your guests actually was kind of bold enough to say, oh, the girls all hold the camera up high to make them look more slender, and it's always a shot of their head and stuff like that. One of the things that's happened with me recently, where I live here in the Midwest, is that There are women that I know who are a little crazy, but they they pop up on my feed sometimes, and they look super awesome and normal. And so that for me has left this constant level of doubt where I'm looking at these pictures and I'm like, I don't know if they look that way. I don't know if they're even trying to go for what their picture kind of would allude that they're trying to get. I just don't trust any of it anymore. It's really hard to find a profile that just is really like, here I am. This is kind of, this is what you get.
Well,
We've all seen it. I mean, there are profiles where in their 5 or 6 pictures or whatever, women prominently feature maybe a bikini or something like that, and they say in all caps, "Not interested in hookups, no one night stand," or whatever, and it's just kind of like, huh? I guess you're just really proud of your physique, which is great, but that's not exactly the message that you're sending. Like I follow a couple of dating most of them are so ridiculous, but there is one dating coach who I think is very she's on Instagram and she's very a lot of common sense and not histrionic. Like she's just really solid in, I think, just relationships. She seems very intuitive. And her whole thing for women is like no bikini pics. Like don't show somebody in your profile something they wouldn't see on a first date, or that you want them to see down the road. And that kind of resonated with me because like Alex, I kind of look at some of these profiles and I understand, hey, if you've got a great body, good for you. But I think those people tend to attract what they're like the bathroom selfie guys and the fish guys are probably attracting the people that they want to attract with that, which is not what those of us who are looking maybe for a relationship and something meaningful are looking for.
And, if you are ever in doubt, like what Alex was saying about how, well, I mean, like they look a certain way, but I don't know once I actually go on the date with them if they're going to look that way. I always do a video chat before I go on the date. That way, like one time I matched with a guy and he was like super good looking and, had suits on and everything, like, stuff that gets me all riled up. And then like we met on video chat, because that's the way I roll. And he was slurring all of his words. It was clear that he had drank like probably, 2 bottles of wine.
Oh, wow.
Like before. And it was like broad daylight. I want to say it was like, 6 p.m. or something. So it wasn't even past dinner time. And he was already slurring and practically falling out of his chair. And I was like, hey, we're done, Right. So do the video chat, Alex. And that way you can tell whether, the whatever selfies that they're presenting themselves as is actually accurate.
You know what? When I actually start getting some actual hits on the apps, I'll try that, Jinah.
Yeah, you're right.
I think that's
How
really
many
good
dates
advice.
have you been on, Alex?
One step at a time.
Yeah.
Through the dating apps, very, 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 very few, like less than 5 in years of doing it.
In how many years?
It's 20.
No.
I was on Match. I was on Matchmaker. I was on the early ones. And you know what's even more aggravating is that a couple years ago I paid for a eHarmony membership because I was like, you know what, I'm gonna buy off on the advertising here. They've got a whole science to it, and they, hey, we've got all these people that got married. Boop, boop, boop. Go on there. First of all, I don't know how there's bots on eHarmony, but there were like literally, you could clearly see that they were fake accounts. And I'm just like, but I don't understand. It's a paid service.
Yeah.
Like you're going to pay to put a bot on eHarmony and what?
100%.
What are you trying to get? Anyway, it all just
$10,000. That's what they want to get.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. It's just, it's really crazy. I will say that in LA, I was doing speed dating for a while because speed dating was like, I was all in on the speed dating because at least with speed dating, there's no faking your picture.
Face to face, right?
Yep, they're right there. They got to tell you your story. And the beauty of the speed dating thing too is that there's no broken expectations. There's no people walking away crushed because they tell you, particularly for the guys, because guys are so like, oh, she's into me. Don't ask them out. That's not what they're here for. You circle their number at the end on the sheet, and then we'll send you an email later today or tomorrow or whatever and tell you if you both circled each other's numbers. I thought that was a great way to go. Certainly better than the apps, but yeah.
And what happened?
Went on a few dates. I mean, my odds were substantially better. Now here in St. Louis, there's not a lot of speed dating going on, if any. I look for these because a lot of these are these kind of companies that spin it up in multiple cities, and it's not really a popular. I think the apps have just kind of taken over, and
they have.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and COVID.
it's the most common way. Although the numbers are going down a little bit, but yeah, it's the most common way. People
Well, and
meet
COVID
people
just
now.
kind of did away with speed dating, and it's been really hard to bring it back. It's a little bit like sweet tomatoes, or what is it, fresh?
yeah, soup plantation.
Sweet tomato.
Yeah, the buffet salad bars. They all went away, and they haven't come back.
Oh.
We'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsors. Our sponsor, Take My Face Off, makes swiping off your makeup just as easy as swiping past a bad profile. Seriously, the MIDI from Take My Face Off is this adorable facial mitt that makes skin cleansing faster, easier, and more thorough than any other method I've tried. I seriously love this product. Next time you're tempted to grab a face wipe, use a MIDI instead. It's just as fast, but it's better for your skin and the planet. Get free shipping with the discount code DATING at takemyfaceoff.com.
Not to change the subject a little bit, but the other thing that is hard for me is if you see somebody, like if you were paying for it and you saw somebody liked you and you decide, oh, okay, I'd like to give it a go. I've been crazy disappointed at the number of women who will initiate a like, maybe have 2 or 3 volleys back and forth in a conversation and then just let it drop. And I'm not one of these people like that dating coach that I follow. She's always like, give a person 2 chances to ask you a question. And then if they don't ask you anything about themselves, or about yourself, then let it go.
Yep.
And so I am very, I'm an interviewer for a job. Like I that's my living. And I might say, oh, I like that picture. It looks like it was in Italy. Have you been there before? What, or do you have any recommendations? And after like 2 or 3 back and forths where you're like, oh, okay, maybe we have a little something here. And then they just disappear. And, it could be they died. They met somebody, there's a million reasons why it could be, but it's just like, were you just drunk and swiping? And then you're like, I don't want to talk to this guy, or whatever. Like, it's just so perplexing. Like, and I'm an analytical mind, and I certainly do not take any of this personally, but I would love to reach out to some of these matches that I've had, where I had one a couple weeks ago where she let it die for 4 or 5 days, and then all of a sudden just jumped in back out of nowhere. And then when I asked her the next question, she just let it drop again. And I just want to go, are you okay?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on? Are you trapped? Have you lost your phone? What is happening? Like, I just for analytical purposes, I would love to know why you keep sort of coming back to me, but then leave it,
You guys are quality over quantity people living in a quantity over quality world.
Right, right.
100%. And we shouldn't have to be thinking this hard about this. We shouldn't be having to game our profile. We shouldn't have to be putting it's so funny. One of the things I always kind of laugh about is, in pop culture, women always say, oh, cargo shorts, bleh, cargo shorts. Why ever wear a pair of cargo shorts? Sometimes, hey man, sometimes you need places to put all your stuff, right? And I'm just like, oh gosh. So I feel like what you asked about the suit question earlier, Jinah, it's like, there's a part of me, I don't suit up. I work from home and then I'm on my bike or I'm playing tennis or I'm out with friends. It's like, I don't suit up all that often. I mean, even when I'm doing trainings for work, I don't suit up. So there's a part of me that also feels like, well, if I'm feeling that I don't have trust in what I'm seeing in the profiles that I'm encountering, why am I going to wear some really nice suit on my profile? Now, I know there's a lot of women out there in the world going, but that's what you got to do. You don't show up on the first date wearing, your super tramp,
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
So I get that. But at the same time, there's also a part of me that's like, oh, I would crave a world where we can just be ourselves and organic conversations happen and we don't have to game the system so much.
Well, so Alex, there is a world. It's called go out and ask somebody out.
Yeah.
So you said, other than speed dating, you said you wanted to do IRL. What have you done and what has that resulted in?
It's actually funny you say that. Last week I was out at an outdoor kind of a picnic that was kind of sponsored by an organization. A lot of food, people out congregating, everyone was happy. I was like, I like this. I saw this this gal I thought was she just had a big smile. You could just tell she had a big heart. She was she was someone that was working there and was really having these lovely interactions with the people there, the attendees. And I went over to her at the end and I said, hey, I go, I just want to say that I've just kind of been watching you kind of interacting with the people here. And I go, you've got a great smile. And I can tell you've just got a big heart. You've just got a lot of joy in your heart. It's just been really fun to watch. And I just said, I really appreciate that. I just wanted to kind of thank you for making me, just kind of get a smile today watching you. And I was going to use it as kind of an open, if she was like, oh, great, thanks a lot. I'll go home and tell my husband or whatever.
Oh, right.
But instead, she just kind of went, okay, real perfectly. And I was like, all right, well, I get it. Yeah, clearly, okay, you took a shot, you missed. So, but yeah, when the moment is right, it's good. I think for me, there are guys that are good looking enough where they'll walk up to a table full of women and they've got their eye on one of them and they don't feel bad at all about walking up and being like, you and only you want to go out. I'm not that guy. I feel awkward if a girl is by herself. I'm really understanding now why people say go to the grocery store late at night. If they're there with their boyfriend, you got them ruled out. And if they're there by themselves, it's just you and her in the canned vegetable aisle. Great, but and hopefully she likes canned vegetables because it shows she's health conscious. But yes, but so for me, like, I just don't like rolling up on women that are in groups because I don't know, if I was the girl in that situation, it would just be weird to have some guy be like, hey, I know you guys are having a great conversation here, but if I could cut in and ask some cliche, stupid question just to try to get my foot in the door and ask one of you out, it just feels a little awkward to me. That's just not my space. That's why the dating apps were like, finally, it's just me and her. They're there.
Yeah.
They want what I want. They're looking for love. We're all looking for love. Great. And then, as we've all shared here, things are not what they seem. They're bot accounts. There's people that are already dating but leave their account up just in case. There's all this stuff. And it just, at the end of the day, it just feels like a ton of work for nothing, So
I think Chris is trying to say something, but just to really give you some feedback about the approach in IRL is ultra important. There was I had a plumbing issue at my house recently. Plumber came in, and immediately, he was just like, "Look at your hair," and I was like, "Are you gonna fix my toilet, or are you here to talk about my hair?" And it immediately turned me off. And this is a young, like, super good looking dude, but I needed a job done, right? And I was like, so there's an episode of our podcast called Kayvon Gets Coached. And I think that was extremely eye-opening for me because these guys had it really dialed in, the coaches that were coaching Kayvon, because they'd say, what do you do when you go up to a pretty girl? And he'd be like, hey, I noticed you at the bar and I thought you were really, really cute. And I was wondering, could I buy you a drink? And they were like, nope, don't do that. Don't go up to the girl at the buffet and go, I've been noticing you. You've been working really hard. You have a really great smile. All wonderful things to say. But the tactic that they chose, and that super resonated with me because I was just like, oh my God, that would totally work on me, was, okay, I heard that was really sour. Is that drink super sour or should I get it? And then they're like, oh, no, it's not sour. It's actually kind of on the sweet side. I like sweet stuff. Oh, okay, well then I better not get it because I don't really like sweet stuff. I'm more of an old-fashioned kind of guy. You slide in that way. You slide in where you're like, what are you drinking? Because I was thinking about maybe ordering that, and you go in for the subtle kind of backhanded approach. And I think, that really resonated with me because 100% I've been asked out very directly and it might have worked, but it does put you on the spot. Right. So if you're able to say, like a guy, asked me out at Target like a few months ago, he started by saying, okay, I have a sister. I'm trying to buy her some leggings. Which one should I buy? I thought that was a really great hunter. Yeah. And I was like, there's like 13 leggings here. They all look the same. You should probably buy one of those. But then we ended up striking up a conversation, right? So maybe take that kind of approach, Alex, if you're going to do IRL.
Go to the leggings aisle is what you're saying.
Go to the leggings aisle.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think Chris said earlier about this proliferation of dating coaches and stuff, and I agree with Chris. A lot of it is just so much noise because there's no school that you go to learn about how to do this, right? So there's a lot of, amateur psychology, life experience.
And girls are so different. They all want something different.
Exactly. And this is
I
why
told that story that I
yeah.
told to friends of mine, and they said, "Oh, that's the sweetest thing ever." If a guy walked up to me and said that, I would be like, "Oh my gosh, that is the sweetest thing." So, right. The problem is that it works for some people, doesn't work for others.
Exactly. So here's what I think where the problem lies with a lot of this sort of approaches and coaching is like, this is what you should do and stuff. It's actually like, just take a step back. It's just common sense. If you come across creepy, just say, "Oh, your hair looks so good." The guy who just came to fix your plumbing, right?
Yeah.
So time and place, right? So it's like, this is not an approach. It's just a common sense way of thinking. Nobody responds to somebody who comes across like being desperate. So if your first message is like, "I want to date you, you're so beautiful, can I have you?" It's like, nobody's going to respond to that, right? Like, man or woman. So the thing is, think about it this way: how do you make a connection with a person, male or female? If I'm at a party, it's like, and I find somebody interesting, I might strike a conversation like, "Oh, like genuinely," like, because a lot of the approaches are like, find something. It's like, because I'm very tactical, right? Find something that you can talk about and comment on. That's very contrived. Whereas if you just strike a conversation with someone, it's like, "Chris, you live in Boston. I went to Boston University," right? So if I met you, someone said, "Oh, you live in Boston. I went to BU. Oh my God, the Citgo sign at Fenway Park," and now all of a sudden we're talking about.
And then Chris would be
baseball.
asking you out.
Right.
Yeah.
He might ask me out. Yeah. It's like, I don't want him to cook for me because I saw his dating profile.
In the sexy apron.
Yeah. But it's like, I think that's the thing. It's like, approach people like just human beings, because I think part of the, in our society, so instant gratification society that we live in, and the short attention span, like, people don't let things simmer anymore. People don't let things happen naturally anymore. And dating apps, inherent in their construction, inherent in their algorithm, inherent in the fact that they are a business enterprise trying to squeeze every dollar out of you, they're not built to make you make actual real connections, right? So I think Alex is on the right path. It's like, honestly, dating apps are a tool. It can be used in a certain way, but at the end of the day, it works for a good number of people, but it doesn't work for everybody, right? Because you got to have quote unquote game. You have to look a certain way. You have to like have a certain approach. You have to, and look, these are all skills that you can learn. I can learn, like, I can go to the gym and put 3 hours a day and have a 6-pack, do something with my hair, dress really nicely, and I'm going to get more likes. I might get to that point where I'm the 10%. But is that what I really want? It might be. And some of those guys, that's what they want.
It gives you a chance. It gives you a foot in the door.
No, this is not how men think. Let me tell you. So if I am the 10% and I'm getting all the women in the world, I am going to become a jerk. This is human nature. This is why billionaires are not very good people. It's because when you get to a point where you have the whole world and you have
catering to you.
Yeah, catering to you, you become a jerk. If you have every woman who wants to sleep with you, because like Alex said, women think about sex leading to love, and men use love. So it's like, "Oh, of course I care. I'm going to listen to you for 2 hours of you going on and on about your day so that I can have sex with you. And then tomorrow I'm not going to call you anymore," right? Because I am a jerk, because I have hundreds of women who want to have sex with me. Of course I'm going to become a jerk, right?
Yeah,
But most of us, the real human, hopefully the good side of us who don't want to be jerks, want real connections. And to Alex's point, I think the best way to do that, Alex, is actually to meet people and connect with them. And if it doesn't lead to a romantic relationship, okay, maybe you made a friend. Right. And but that's how, and then maybe that friend, maybe that friend, like you like the woman who you commented on, and she happens to have or if there are also people who are like, "Oh, why are you talking to me?" and they walk away. It's like, let them be.
That's right.
Yeah, that's fine.
They're not with your time.
Yeah, but if you connect with someone, that person might not be interested in you, but person might know someone who's like, "Oh my God, you'd be perfect for a friend of mine," right? And that's how it works. That's how it used to work.
One of the things I've been trying to do, and it's difficult because my friends are scattered all over the country and a lot of them are married and stuff. And so I don't really have a wingman, but I've been trying to be better about reading social cues and trying to, for lack of a better word, like my flirting game. And like, this goes back to, 25, 30 years ago, where like I went to an all-male high school. And so I didn't really date in high school, and I got to college and I was like so out of my league. And we all know people who maybe aren't Brad Pitt, but seem to have a lot of romantic relationships or whatever, because they're great at reading social cues
Yes.
and things like that. And so what I've been trying to do, it's funny, when I had my first job in Jackson, Mississippi, I had a female friend who would just be like, let's just go sit at the bar somewhere today. And I'd be like, why? And she'd be like, and she'd go, exposure. And I said, what do you mean? And she said, we just got to get out there. And we've just got to be out in public and I think we lost some of this with COVID,
Yes.
but as I've aged, like one of the things I've gotten better at is, okay, maybe I'm not going to go up and ask somebody about their drink or just say, hey, I'm Chris, you have a great smile or whatever. If she's totally closed off, earphones, reading a book, not making eye contact. But if she's kind of looked at me across the bar a couple times or smiled or whatever, or is sitting with her body towards me, like I had a couple of married women. There's an Italian restaurant in my building that's opened up. So I try to go down there about once a week, and I chat up the bartender, and I've kind of become a regular. And a couple of weeks ago, a couple of married women were out for a girls' night. And so I could tell that they were visiting. I wasn't going to talk to them or anything like that. But I noticed that the one next to me kind of like kept like opening up a little bit more and more. And finally she said something like, oh, is that the, arancini or whatever I was eating? And I'm like, yeah, it is. And then the three of us ended up getting in this really good conversation. Okay. And I was like, that's textbook. Okay. That is, she could tell that I was open to a conversation because I wasn't reading. I wasn't on my phone. I was just kind of eating my meal and kind of watching what was going on. I was a little bit angled towards her. And so she felt comfortable. And I was like, okay, this is what I'm looking for when I'm out in the wild, of these people who kind of give these really subtle signs that I would have missed 30 years ago, of they're open to a conversation, as opposed to people who are completely shut down or completely disinterested. And you can tell that, if you go and you stick yourself out there and say, hey, you very clearly have an amazing smile. Now, that may work for some people who haven't even considered it. But like if you can read that subtle clue of they might be open to having that conversation, or at least an introduction, that's kind of what I've been trying to do in lieu of meeting people on these apps, is just being out about once a week, whether I'm with somebody or not, and just kind of trying to read the room and see, if there's a place where I can, make a joke or, ask somebody about their beverage or their food or something, or they can do, and giving off the impression that I'm open to do the same.
Yeah. And I would say, Chris, it's my 2 cents. You could do with it what you will. I love your smile. That is a wonderful compliment, but maybe don't open with that, because what that does is it just puts a woman on the spot. Like, whether she finds you horrifically hot and wants to rip your clothes off right now, it doesn't matter. When we're put on the spot, when we understand that somebody's interested in us because of what you said and how you said it, it just changes the dynamic to the point where, like, we tense up a little bit and then we're just not relaxed. But if you were to say something like, ooh, I had that last week, girl, that was spicy. I can't believe you're eating that. Then you were like, oh, really? Oh my God. Like, what are you, a wuss? I eat this for breakfast, And then now it gives us a chance to kind of banter and to see if you banter. And then I'm like, oh, this guy's kind of cool, So I would say so let's transition to like the solution part of this, because we could talk about the problem all day long. There is a problem. We have established that it is abundantly clear. What can we do about it? And like, the IRL is definitely one way, and doing IRL right, where you're not coming off as creepy, you're not coming off as desperate, where you're just kind of like, hey, what's up, being all kind of friendly and funny, letting your personality shine first. The other things that I might suggest as a woman is to make sure that you invest in your photos. Whatever. If Daniel says he likes bathroom selfies, you go ahead and put a bathroom selfie in there.
I like bathroom selfies.
I don't respond to those.
I say they work for a certain group of people.
They clearly do work for certain people.
For the hookup culture, it works.
For the woman that's taking bathroom selfies, she's probably like, oh, there's a fellow compatriot. But I would say focus on your photos. The photos are pretty important because, among the hundreds of likes that women get, right? Like, the photo is the first thing that's going to make us determine whether we're going to spend more than 2 seconds on you. Get super witty and funny in your profile words, the real estate that you are given, right? I once swiped right on a guy that I ended up going out on multiple dates with, and he was totally not my type, but I swiped right on him because he took a photo in the middle of like a 2-lane highway, probably in like Moab or something in the middle of nowhere. So it was like beautiful landscape behind him. And he was like in like shorts and a t-shirt. And he like kind of like, crouched like a supermodel. And he like did one of those like glamour shot, like kind of like going from the back to the front look. And I thought that was so hilarious. And then I read his profile because I responded to the photo and I was like, this guy's freaking funny. I'm going to swipe right on him. Right. So get my attention and then give me something more funny and witty with the prompts. And I'm thinking that's about all you can do. So what are your solutions?
I totally agree with that. One of the things that I do get a lot of comments on Hinge, if I do get comments, is, you see a lot of women in their profiles say that I want somebody who's done the work or is in therapy. Like they're very specific about,
Yes.
being open to taking care of your mental health. And so there's a prompt that says, my therapist would say, and my answer to that prompt is I always leave her with a thrilling cliffhanger for our next session. And I get a lot of people who comment on that. So, okay, it signals that I am or have been in therapy. And it also, is just something funny because like, as a storyteller, I literally always feel like the final 5 minutes of a session, like I want her to be interested. I feel like I'm performing for my therapist. And like, so I always kind of like save a nugget at the end of like, oh, and by the way, my father said I'm a terrible person. I'll see you next week,
Yeah.
And so if it's not a comment on some of my pictures, I often get a lot of things like, that's hilarious or whatever, I totally agree
Then
with
Chris, I don't know
trying.
what the fuck is happening because
Thank
that's
you.
hilarious.
Yeah.
Well,
You're great.
So I will say this. I believe part of it is where I am. Okay. Boston, it's a weird town, and especially this section of Boston
Ooh,
that
all the
I'm in.
Bostonians are going to be like, where does this Chris live?
I don't know if you guys have this in Los Angeles, probably not, or even St. Louis, but I see the same people over and over again on all the apps.
Yes.
There
Oh,
are
no,
there
it
are a
happens
few
everywhere.
Okay. But I will say when I'm going to Kansas City this week, and when I go to New York or even Kansas, I went to Kansas City last year, Charleston, I tend to get, maybe because I'm fresh meat,
You're
I'm
fresh
somebody
meat.
new that they haven't seen before. But like I tend to get like when I go to Manhattan, like I tend to get a lot more clicks than I do here. So part of it might be environment. I don't know.
It totally is. In Manhattan, it's known. It is a well-known fact that there is a dearth of really, really great guys. Amazing women with salaries that probably
Right.
exceed all 4 of ours. And
Right.
they have multiple degrees and then they just can't find a man. So I'd say hang out in Manhattan.
Yeah, I go there as much as I can, and I think about moving back every day.
I think here's my takeaways that I've heard so far. My profile picture needs to be Daniel in his bathroom. I need to order the arancini at the Italian restaurant and talk to the bartender, and I need to move to Manhattan. Those all seem super achievable. So,
Oh, Alex, come on! You're in the heartland of America.
I kid. It's a very interesting world here because this particular town regionally is very politically divisive. And look, we all know that politics right now, as much as we hate to admit it, if you're on that side or you're on the other side, there's going to be you've already just like literally surgically removed half of the populace just 100%. By your political affiliation.
I'll just swipe right on a MAGA hat wearing, bikini clad hottie.
You would?
I'm just kidding.
Oh, okay. The moment
so
somebody
proud
says,
of you, Daniel.
not vaxxed, don't care if you are, immediately swipe left. Yeah. Not vaxxed? Really? We're in fucking 24 and you're still not vaxxed?
Oh, here we go.
Fuck you.
All right, people. Yeah. Comment lines right here.
I know. Sorry. Don't swipe on me.
I wanted to ask Alex, because you said you ride bikes and you play tennis. Like, that's one thing that I've been considering and seems to be kind of becoming more popular here in Boston. I know the New York Times just did an article about this in New York, is meeting people more through group activities
Yes.
as opposed
Yes.
to the dating apps. And if I were a runner, I'm not. But if I didn't travel so much for work, I've really strongly considered, playing pickleball
Exactly.
or
Totally.
Yeah. I agree.
I used to play. I
100%.
used to love playing baseball. That's one thing or a cooking class or something.
Yeah.
That's something I'd really.
Alex, why
The
don't you
girl,
do
100%. Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Cooking
Oh, yeah.
class.
the girl I went out with last week, interestingly, is really involved in these groups, and I wanted to go. Well, why are you here with me? like you play pickleball every week. Like, aren't there guys there? Like,
Exactly.
what's going on?
Pickleball is the new dating app, from what I can tell.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I know
Yeah.
a lot of people are like, yeah, no, I'm meeting people through pickleball. My problem is that us old school tennis players are kind of opposed to pickleball because we just
Oh,
Yeah.
get over it.
no,
Come
you
on.
can't. It's awesome. But yeah, I digress.
Well, so we've solved a whole lot of nothing, but
Yeah, no.
I think this is hopefully a little bit enlightening as you proceed. And I mean, who am I to talk? Because I'm still on the apps as well, but I seem to have the opposite problem. But yeah,
It is
if
kind
you
of a
have-
bummer to think that people like you who are attractive, successful, you have all the right ingredients. That's why you're getting all the likes. It is kind of it just seems so antithetical that you're also totally striking out in the big picture on this app business. That just,
Well,
that
to me,
Because I'm going after the 10% apparently.
No, but no, that's not. I mean, not in your case. But I think that explains exactly what we're all talking about here. It's like the dating apps don't work
right.
in the way we think they're supposed to work. It's a tool, and we say this all the time. It's a tool, but it's not. It's a design. Like if you understand what it's designed to do, and the people in it, and sort of the
but
dynamics
people do
of it.
meet on dating
Yeah,
apps.
I
You've
mean,
met on dating apps.
I've had long-term relationships with the women I've met on dating apps. So it's not nothing in this world is 100%, right? So, but it's like I think the frustration comes, and it's a similar it's the opposite ends of the same coin. Like your frustration is that you've got all these choices and yet you're not meeting the person that you want to, because again, the apps are just a tool. And in real life too, what's going to happen is you're going to meet a lot of people that you're going to strike out. It's like, they make great first impression, but then you find out that you have different values, or people change also over time.
Oh, that's 100% true.
Right,
I have hundreds of friends, right?
Right.
Because I'm in an industry where I meet a lot of people.
Yeah.
I'm a massive extrovert. Out of all those people, do I want to sleep with? How many of them? Not a lot. So it's like
I would hope
it's
so.
true.
Then you'd be a different kind of person.
Gina is a very different case because she's feasting here. She's just not picking the right foods. And
Well,
so,
I'm like, God,
it's-
this fried chicken is clearly 3 days old. Yeah.
but she keeps going for the fried chicken, like
Yeah,
like
I
George
keep going for the
Costanza
fried
said.
chicken.
Actually, Chris
that-
said something like exactly. Like people keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different, results. Which is
Seinfeld. If everything you do is wrong, then the opposite would have to be right. So Gina's got to go for the guy with the selfie and the fish and see how that goes.
That's right. That's right.
Give me all the
Exactly.
gym pics. Yes,
Yeah.
I'm going to swipe right on you this time,
Yeah.
and maybe something
and
different
then
will
educate
happen.
him. Educate him. Say, you know what? Maybe you shouldn't fish so much, or you shouldn't take so many selfies
And they're
in the
like,
bathroom.
"Well, I got you, didn't I?" And I'd be like, "Well,
Because
that's
there's one thing we
And
know
by
about
the way,
guys.
every time she talks about guys, and she uses that word, did you? Every man is a
got you,
dumbass in her.
No, I'm just lowering my voice. That's all I'm doing.
There's one thing we know about guys is they love it when women try to change them. So keep that
Oh,
strategy.
yeah. You know the saying, like women are looking for a project. Like
That's right.
Men are looking for a woman who will like them, and women are looking for a project.
Yeah, men.
That's the lesson for Alex and me is that like I've got to go for the goth girl who's all tatted up who says she
Yeah.
smokes weed all day.
Right.
I'm like, oh, I've never tried one of those before.
Yeah.
Maybe that's my soulmate.
Right.
Alex, who are you going to go for?
I'm going for the same goth girl. So Chris and I are going to come together at some point.
Yeah.
It's just going to happen.
You're like, yeah, I could go for Satan worship. Sure.
Yeah, I'm just looking, honestly, in
Anything
St.
for
Louis, I'm
love.
looking for anyone without a picture of Fauci with the big do not enter thing on their profile.
Oh my God.
God, no.
So-
Are you serious?
Yeah, don't get me started.
Geography, my friend. Location. That might be one of your problems.
In
Yeah,
real
you
life,
need to come
is the
back to
answer. I
LA.
think you're right. IRL, I think, is the answer. I think we've come full circle. And it's really funny because IRL isn't the magic bullet like Daniel was saying too. The guy that you saw you matched with him on the service, and then when you got on a video chat ahead of time and he was slurring, that guy's going to be slurring at the bar just as much as he's slurring on the video.
Exactly.
So,
100%.
So, but at least IRL just look, we're going to meet all the same people in real life. The only difference is that we just jack our stats way, way, way up because we're the only one in the room. So
yeah,
I think there's another interesting point too that my therapist actually brought up to me, because like my whole mantra that I walk around in my head with is don't be creepy, don't be creepy, don't be creepy. And so now that, especially now that I've turned 50, like, you know, I'm sitting there and I'm looking at people. Now, granted, my college roommate in LA just got engaged to a 31-year-old. So, I mean, it does happen. But she said, if you were out in the wild and you met somebody attractive that you felt some chemistry with, you have no idea how old that person is, you know, as opposed to it's sitting right there on the app and you're like, 33, I don't know, you know, and I'm kind of limiting myself that way too, because I'm just like, oh, that's a big gap. But the girl I went out with last week was 35. So there you go.
Hey,
there you go.
Nothing wrong with that. And you know
Right.
what? The height thing, right? The apps are all about statistics. What do you do?
Yeah.
Where do you live? What's your ethnic background? What languages do you speak? How tall are you? I know it's a thing. I mean, for me, it's not. I've gone out with men who are 5'2", you know, and I don't care about that so much. But also IRL eliminates that, right? Like, oh, I don't know. He says he's 5'7". That's 1 inch shorter than my standard. So like in IRL, people don't care as much and they don't notice maybe. So yeah, I agree. Maybe that's the solution.
No face tuning in IRL.
No face tuning in IRL. That's right. And no ability to, because I've also met people that are very witty on the apps and I meet them and I'm like, clearly your friend wrote this for you.
Right.
That is a perfect example. I added to my notes of things I wanted to bring up because I know guys that are hilarious in written form that are absolutely terrified to interact with humans in real life. And I think that when you were saying use a bunch of comedy in your profile, all I can picture is women reading it and going, that's funny, but is this guy literally going to be funny in real life, or is he going to be some just weird, creepy guy that just happens to be hilarious, you know? So again, we're back to IRL again.
Yeah, it's an entree, you know?
By the way, there's face tuning in IRL as well. It's called makeup.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true.
All right, time to change the name of the podcast to I Love IRL.
Yeah.
So, we'll be your first two guests.
Yeah. Well, Alex and Chris, I would go out with both of you. So just saying. Yeah.
So would I, by the way.
I'll be in LA by 7 p.m.
Yeah.
I think I can get to Logan real quick.
Yeah. Daniel and I would both go out with you in a heartbeat.
Well, we have that BU connect. We have that Boston connection.
Yeah,
you have the bromance already.
All right. One today, one tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate you and love you both.
Thank you.
It was a blast.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Well, I hate dating apps because can't love with them.
And can't love without them.
Thank you, everyone.
Although apparently you can.
Yeah. We're finding out that you can. Okay. Have a great day, everybody.
I hate dating apps.
Hey, app daters and haters, tell us your dating app experience and we just might bring you on as a guest for future episodes. Head to ihatedatingapps.com and click on the big yellow Tell Us Your Story button. You can't miss it. We've got a lot of fun content on our social channels, so please follow us at I Hate Dating Apps on Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. And on Instagram, we're at I Hate Dating Apps Pod. And don't forget to like and subscribe wherever you're listening to this podcast.